Some people enter our lives like a tidal wave, sudden, intense, and unstoppable. They crash through our defenses without warning. They're unlike anyone we've ever met. They look at us in a way no one ever has, and in that gaze, we feel seen, understood, even touched in a part of our soul we didn't know existed. And then, before we can even understand what's happening, they disappear. Why? Why would the universe send someone who wakes up every cell in our body, only for them not to stay? Why does something that feels like destiny end in heartbreak? And why can't we stop thinking about them, even when we know they weren't meant for us? If you've ever felt that, like you were living through a storm no one else could see, this video is for you. Today, we're diving into that question, not with judgment, but with the lens of Jungian psychology, a space where our shadows speak, where every encounter is a mirror reflecting something sacred within us. This isn't just a story about love. It's a story about you and your journey back to yourself. Think of someone you once loved or thought you did, someone who made you feel awakened. But in the end, everything fell apart. Maybe you tried to fix it, tried to understand, asked yourself 100 times, what went wrong? But what if you stepped back and asked a different question? What if it didn't go wrong? What if it happened exactly the way it needed to, so you could see yourself? Carl Jung once said, "Everyone you meet is a mirror, reflecting not only what you know about yourself, but parts you've never seen before." And maybe the person who hurt you the most was also the one who showed you your deepest shadow, the part of you that was buried, ignored, hidden away for so long. In Jungian psychology, we call this the shadow, the unconscious side of the self. It's where we push our fears, our wounds, our unspoken desires, and then someone comes along. They don't just attract us, they disturb us. They make us feel alive and unsafe at the same time. They stir something we can't control. And in the end, they leave. But what matters isn't that they left. What matters is what woke up inside you after they came and after they were gone. Because the ones who don't stay rarely come to build. They come to break. And in the rubble, the only thing left is you, raw, honest, face to face with your truest self. Maybe you loved someone who couldn't love you back, or maybe you loved them only to realize you were trying to heal something older, something from childhood, when you had to earn love, beg to be seen, fight to be chosen. Now, you're just rewriting an old script with a new face. Unfinished relationships are often the universe's way of initiating us into transformation. They're not mistakes, they're rituals, painful ones, but sacred nonetheless. James Hollis, a Jungian analyst, once wrote, "The purpose of love is not happiness, it's transformation." And from that lens, you begin to see the universe didn't send you someone to keep. It sent someone to wake you up. And waking up is rarely comfortable. It pulls you out of your safe zone. It strips away your masks, your illusions, It forces you to face the questions you've been running from your whole life. Why do I need others to validate my worth? Why do I fall for those who can't love me back? Why do I feel I'm not enough just because someone didn't choose me? But if you're brave enough not to run from those questions, you'll begin a deeper journey, the journey of healing. Not by forgetting them, but by listening to yourself more deeply than ever before. We often think we need to close our hearts after heartbreak, but maybe what we really need is to open a different door within, because the person who broke you didn't come to destroy you. They came as a reminder. It's time to come home to yourself. Have you ever met someone who felt like destiny, but ended like a shattered dream? And after everything, did you ever ask, what were they here to teach me? What part of me did they awaken, one I had forgotten? And can I love that part now, without needing anyone else to validate it? If you're nodding right now, stay with me, because the deepest part is still ahead. There's a strange but profound truth. The relationships that break our hearts are often the most sacred ones. Not because they last forever, but because they bring us back to a forgotten part of ourselves. That's the paradox of unfulfilled love. What feels like a detour might actually be a map back to consciousness. When you feel a connection that defies logic, a strange familiarity you can't explain, a spark that feels both foreign and deeply known, you may be entering a soul ritual. That person isn't just a person. They're the embodiment of an archetype, a timeless symbol within you that's been waiting to awaken. Carl Jung believed that within each of us live collective symbols, archetypes, the lover, the child, the savior, the healer. These archetypes dwell in the collective unconscious, and when we enter a relationship, we're not just falling for them, we're interacting with hidden parts of ourselves. That's why you can feel like you belong to someone, even when you barely know who they are, because what you're really seeing isn't them. It's a part of yourself you've never allowed to live. Have you ever loved someone who felt like home, but also made your heart feel completely unsteady? Someone who brought you ecstasy and chaos in equal measure. That's not just emotion, that's an archetype awakening. That person isn't just someone out there, they're a symbol, a doorway into the world of your unconscious. And here's the hard truth. Archetypes don't come to stay. They come to activate. Once their role is complete, the relationship often falls apart. Not because you did something wrong, but because the symbolic weight was too heavy for reality to hold. You weren't loving a person. You were loving a projection, a part of yourself you've never lived, now illuminated through them. Many people are left confused after such endings. They say, I don't understand. How could something feel so deep, only to disappear? But that question carries a flawed assumption. That depth must mean longevity, when in truth, it's often the briefest, most intense experiences that reveal the deepest truths. Jung once wrote, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light but by making the darkness conscious. And love, especially incomplete love, is often the place where that darkness gets lit from within. You're not just hurting because you lost someone. You're grieving the loss of a hope, a piece of your ego that once believed, I am only whole if they stay. But if you have the courage to look deeper, to meet the part of yourself they awakened, you'll begin to see what you truly needed wasn't them. It was that part of you that they made you feel. Maybe they awakened your desire. Maybe they made you feel desirable, alive, radiant. Maybe they were the first person who truly made you feel seen. But ask yourself this: why did it take someone else for me to feel that way? Why does my lovable self only appear when someone else walks in? And what would happen if I learned to love that part of me even when no one else is around? That is transformation. That's when you stop searching for your soul in someone else's eyes and start returning home. That person didn't come to complete you. They came to show you that you once believed you were incomplete. And now that they're gone, you're here to heal that belief. You see, in many cases, unfinished love is a soul contract. Now, this might sound mystical, but don't dismiss it just yet. According to many ancient traditions, some souls agree before birth to meet each other. I will find you. I will wake you up. I will break your heart, and then I will leave. But you will never be the same again. Some people come into our lives as messengers, not to stay, but to activate. And once their role is complete, they vanish, like a ritual that has served its purpose. You may never see them again, but what they touched in you will never disappear. They were the door. You are the one who must decide whether to walk through it. So don't just ask, why did they leave? Ask, what did I discover about myself because they came? And more importantly, how have I loved myself since they've been gone? There's something strange, something few of us dare to look at directly. We're often drawn to the same type of person again and again. Even if they look different on the outside, the energy feels the same. We swear we'll never repeat the past, but somehow, unconsciously, we end up choosing the exact kind of person who once broke us. The mind knows it's not right, but the heart, or more precisely, the wound that hasn't healed, whispers, "This feels familiar." But why? Why do we keep seeking out people who can't give us the love we crave? Why do we keep repeating the same cycle? Love, hurt, hope, disappointment, and then love again. Someone eerily similar. Carl Jung once said something that stops us in our tracks. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What you call destiny may simply be an old script, playing itself out again. An emotional blueprint written long ago, maybe in childhood, when we were too young to understand that love doesn't always mean safety. Think back. What were your earliest memories of love? Did you have to work hard for your parents' attention? Did you feel like you weren't good enough to be loved unconditionally? Did you learn to associate love with coldness, withdrawal, silence, instead of warmth and presence? If the answer is yes, then it's likely you're carrying within you a child who was never loved the way they needed, and that child is still searching for love through an adult body. That's why you're drawn to people who aren't emotionally available. They awaken something in you that feels familiar, not comfortable, but familiar. They pull you back into the role of the one who has to earn love, and your unconscious mind thinks, maybe this time, if I'm good enough, they'll stay. This time, I'll be chosen. But you can't rewrite the past by reliving it. You can't heal your childhood by loving people who resemble the ones who hurt you. You can only heal when you recognize the pattern and choose to step out of it. That's the moment of awakening, the moment when you stop asking, how can I make them stay? And start asking, why do I need their approval to feel worthy? The moment you realize what you've been longing for was never their love, it was your own love for the part of you no one ever held. This isn't easy. It takes courage, courage to look back, courage to sit in the silence when no one is there, courage to walk past the temptation to return to what's familiar, even when you know it's not good for you. But here's the miracle. Every time you refuse to return to that old pattern, you create a new space inside your soul, a space for healing, for a kind of love that doesn't come from lack, but from wholeness. And then you begin to feel a shift, not dramatic, not loud, but something deeply peaceful. I no longer need someone else to feel complete. That is the first step toward freedom, freedom from old expectations, freedom from the false belief that you are only lovable if you never disappoint anyone, freedom from the idea that love must always be a struggle, something you have to fight for, sacrifice for, give more to, and get less from. And then one day, you look back at the person you once thought was your greatest love. You no longer resent them. You no longer wish to return. You just feel grateful because somehow, knowingly or not, they brought you back to the question you feared the most. Who am I? When no one stays. And if you have the courage to answer that question, not with bitterness, not with pain, but with radical honesty, you've entered a new stage of the journey. You're no longer someone seeking others to feel whole. You're someone learning to embrace yourself, even the parts once rejected, the parts once shamed, the parts once labeled too much or not enough. You no longer need love as proof of your worth. You choose love as a way to share the wholeness you found within, and that is real love. There comes a quiet moment we all eventually face, when they're gone, when the tears have dried, when the room no longer carries their scent, and you find yourself sitting alone. It's not the loneliness that hurts the most. It's the question, what am I supposed to do with all of these feelings now? You no longer want to go back, but you're not quite sure how to move forward. You still carry a love that has nowhere to go, an emotion left unfinished, A part of you that once awakened for someone, now left without a place to land. That moment, fragile, unanchored, is precisely where the real journey begins. Because loving someone is beautiful, but integrating that experience into your soul's growth, that is sacred work. Jung called it individuation, the journey of becoming the whole person you were born to be, not by erasing the pain, but by embracing it, facing it, and allowing it to become a meaningful chapter in your story. You don't need to forget them. In fact, don't try to forget. Remember, but remember differently, not with obsession, but with gratitude, not with regret, but with self-understanding, because the most painful thing is not that someone left, but that we learned nothing from their leaving. So instead of pushing the pain away, let it teach you. Let it whisper the things you were once too busy to hear. You don't have to trade your peace for love. You don't need to shrink yourself to fit inside someone else's heart. You don't need to suffer just to believe the love was real. And slowly, you begin to realize the love you were searching for in someone else was actually a call from within, a cry from the part of you you once abandoned when you tried to be easy to love, tried not to take up space, tried to be good enough to be kept. But now, you can go back to that part of you and say, I see you now. I'm sorry I stayed silent when you needed protection, but I'm here, and I'm not leaving again. That is integration, when you no longer treat your pain as an enemy, but as part of your being. When you realize that pain doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're growing, and growing was never meant to be easy. There will be days you miss them, not because you still love them, but because they awakened something beautiful inside you, and you're afraid that part will fall asleep forever. But trust me, that part belongs to you, not to them. They were just the first to touch it, but you are the one who keeps it alive. Real love doesn't come to rescue you. It comes to show you. You never needed to be rescued. You just needed to be seen. First by someone else, and then by yourself. And when you can finally see yourself, not through someone else's eyes, not through their approval or rejection, you are free. You no longer love to be chosen. You love as an act of presence. You no longer ache because someone didn't stay. You thank them for showing up at all. And when your heart is healed, open and deep, you will love again, not because you are empty, but because you are full. Not to be completed, but to share what you found within. And maybe the next person won't come like a storm. Maybe they'll arrive gently, not to shake your world, but to hold it steady, not to make your heart race, but to help it rest, like a small fire, not wild, but warm enough to carry you through the winter. And you'll understand, love doesn't have to hurt to be real. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be deep. It just has to be right. The right person, the right time, the right consciousness. And to arrive at what's right, you have to walk through what's wrong. You have to love the wrong people, trust the wrong emotions, lose yourself. and find your way back. That's not failure. That's a rite of passage, a ritual of becoming a wiser, fuller, more awake version of yourself. And if you're in the middle of that pain right now, stay with it just a little longer. Don't rush. Don't run. Let it say everything it needs to say, because one day you'll look back at this moment and thank it with every ounce of tenderness in your heart. And then, one day, you wake up, open your eyes, and realize your heart feels a little lighter. Not because you've forgotten them, but because you've remembered yourself. Remembered the light you had before love arrived, and the light that still remains after it left. The truth is, we're never really taught how to end a relationship. We're only taught how to begin one, how to fall in love, how to make someone love us back, how to make them stay. But no one teaches us this. Letting go is also an art, a deeply human act, a way of saying, I cherish what we had, and I choose to let it end with grace. Not everyone who leaves is the villain, and not everyone who stays is meant to. Sometimes, the person who hurts you the most is the same person who once made you feel most alive, and that doesn't make them bad. It just means they no longer belong on your path. And once you understand that, something shifts. You begin to love without clinging, give without expecting, stay without needing to control, leave without carrying resentment. You stop searching for safety in someone belonging to you and start finding it in belonging to yourself. Love stops being a shelter from loneliness and becomes a space to grow together, not to heal each other, but to bear witness, to watch each other fully live their separate paths and still choose to walk side by side. And if that doesn't happen, you'll still be okay, because now you know how to stand on your own. You're no longer the one who only knows how to love deeply, but forgets how to love yourself. You're no longer the one who gives everything just to hold on to a gaze, a promise. Now, you're the one who can sit with the pieces of your heart, alone, and still know, I am whole. You're no longer afraid of someone leaving, because if they do, you know they're simply making space for something more aligned. And if they choose to stay, it's because they want to, not because you fought to make them. Maybe the biggest lesson the universe teaches us through the people who are not meant for us isn't how to find the perfect love, but how to grow into a mature one. A love that doesn't start with the fear of loss, but with the courage to stay. A love that doesn't run from the dark, but knows how to light it up together. And that begins with you. When you pause, when you sit in that quiet room where pain lives and say, I'm here now, I'm not running anymore. When you choose to face the sadness without needing to be soothed. When you choose to fully live with yourself, with or without anyone by your side. That's when love begins. Real love. Not rushed, not desperate for validation, not afraid of being left behind, but a love born from someone who has lost before and learned how to return, softer, deeper, fuller. And that kind of love is different. You no longer look for someone to fill your emptiness. You look for someone to expand your space. Not to need each other, but to choose each other again and again. Not to escape the silence, but to walk into it together and find it beautiful. Because the person who's truly right for you will never make you question your worth. They're not here to heal you. They're here to hold space as you heal yourself. They won't make you feel small. They'll inspire you to grow, not so you can be loved, but so you can love better. And when that person comes, or even if they don't, you'll still be okay. Because now, you know, sometimes the universe sends you the wrong person, not so you can keep them, but so you can remember yourself. So you can realize that the greatest love of all is the one you give to the part of you that was once abandoned. And if this journey touched something deep inside you, leave a comment. Tell me about a person who changed you, or a time you had to learn how to love yourself through the breaking. And if you feel like you need someone to walk beside you on this inner journey, hit like and follow MIRoR, not for the algorithm, but so you'll know you're not alone on this path. We're walking through the dark together to rediscover the light within. And here, you are always seen, always heard, and always enough, even as you heal.